are back, the unofficial commentators, after a brief 1-week hiatus. My bro Jay, all the way from Brooklyn. Paki here in Philly. What's up, fellas? How's it going, Jay?
It's going well. First, I want to say that as of the date of recording, I want to start us off with a shout out. Happy birthday to my young daughter, 8 years old today. Happy birthday, dear angel. That is my.
Happy birthday to you.
All right, yes. Another shout out. I want to shout out Los Chocheros de la Liga de la Unión, 2019 champions, campeones. They are now loyal viewers of the unofficial commentators, though I don't know how much they are interested in fantasy football, but who cares?
What
You
base
are?
did
Shout
what
it
base did
out.
you play? What base did you play?
I played catcher and right field mostly. Um,
Okay. And what bat were you?
I was close to the end. I'm.
Of
This
course they
is
won. Okay, of course they won.
this is my second year in my entire life playing softball. I'm just now picking it up. It's not like when I played football or other things that I knew what I was doing. This is an entire learning experience. Um, well into my 30s, yeah, and I played most of the year with a bad knee, so
Mm.
it is what it is.
Yeah, clearly you got good teammates. You have great teammates.
I have the best teammates.
Picking up your slack.
Champion.
Nice, nice. Good job taking credit for other people's work. I like that.
Ride the wave, baby.
That's right, baby. America.
I ate sunflower seeds like nobody's business.
Oh, man.
Pounding Coors Light like a motherfucker.
It's the only way.
Softball Gatorade.
All right, man. Enough softball, man. We don't. I'm done with baseball. Like baseball's freaking boring. The Mets aren't going to make it to the playoffs, so fuck
uh,
baseball right now.
Sucks to be you, but then again, I knew that shit in July, so I don't know what to tell you.
They gave us brief hope with that nice run, but it was for nothing.
How long was that run? 5 games? Oof.
They won like 16 out of 17 games or something like that.
Oh, wow.
They were so far
Fantastic.
behind, it was useless. It was nothing.
I mean, yeah, sold a few tickets. Any fucking way. All right, so I think we both respectfully ignored the pick'em last week, but for the first week, we tied. We both went 2-5.
Wow, we
Reminder,
did really bad.
yeah, we did. But hey, we hadn't seen the
Yeah.
results yet. Even though if we would have gone by week one, we would have probably, goddamn, would have probably got some bad picks last week also. But nonetheless, we are currently tied 2-5. I want to remind the rest of the league that you can also play along. Victor decided to play along. He plays along every year. Victor is actually leading us. He scored 4-3, picked 4 correct matchups out of 7 last in the first week. Hasn't made any picks since, so there's still time, guys. You can jump in. For all we know, you can get all 7 matchups right and tie or even surpass us. So feel free to jump in at any time. Now, with games having been played, we go back to our segments. Yay, segments.
Let's
All
go.
right. We already did pick them, so now let's announce the highest scorer for week 2. The auto drafted. No voy a pagar nada.
It's funny, right? The one that he's probably the one that complained the most.
Yes.
And look at him scoring up.
148.80 points. That was a truly high score last week. He needed every single one of those points to beat 4 p.m. auto draft, which scored the second highest amount of points in the league.
I
Maybe
don't
the
even,
third. I wasn't paying attention, but it
I
was like
don't even know what
130.
what Chef Joe's complaining about. Like you look at his team, and that team looks pretty good. I don't know what the hell he's complaining about. Like he might have the best running back duo in the entire league. This guy's a joke.
And his wife even said it. Que no pague nada, total, se lo van a quitar todo. All right. After a pretty impressive week 2 in which Mac Cafe Espresso ended up with the second highest score after he thought he set a record and then got beat, he earns this week's Sucks Dynasty Award, 75.32 points in week number 2. An absolute flop. That was less than half of what you scored last week. What a huge, huge letdown. Toma tu pela.
Can I just say something? I mean, I'll talk about him in the previews. It's fine. We'll talk about him in the previews. But no, yeah, keep going, keep going. Why are you so silent?
Toma tu pela. Cousin Juan beat out Daryl by shit. He beat him up by 42.74 points. I only saw Daryl's score, which is 82.92. That was close to the bottom of the league last week. La Chepa. This award is not for the narrowest win, but rather for the most fortunate matchup. That goes to the Rough Raiders. The Rough Raiders would have lost to 9 other teams in the
All right.
league,
But I beat the guy that I had to beat.
but he just so happened to match up with one of the few teams that wouldn't have beat him out this week. And as it happens, that rival that he played, Chef. Oh, I almost called him Chef. No, El Papa de Daphne, Joel
Well,
Vasquez.
Vasquez. I gotta apologize to the league on the rivalry week. So something messed up. I thought the rivalry week was set up, and I only confirmed by looking at my matchup. So clearly it wasn't. I'm like, because I thought it picked up the schedule from last week, so I thought we were gonna run the same schedule. Totally fucked up on that one, but yeah, let's just take it rivalry week, 1 week at a time, as you play your rival. No other way around it. So luckily, I got my rivalry win. Yeah, fuck Vasquez.
So as you play your rival, we'll shout out that matchup week to week. All
By
right.
the way, the scoring, the what do you call it? The point fix never happened. You still lost, bro.
The stat correction.
The stat correction never happened. You still lost. Oh.
He lost by enough points where I don't think a stat correction would apply. Stat correction is 1 or 2 points.
Thank you very much, Odell Beckham. My man, one play, man. I was cheering that play like if he was a Raider.
All right. The theme in the NFL this week was a slew of injuries that started in week 2. Sorry, started in week 1, but did not limit themselves to week 1. They kept on going in week 2. Week 2 saw 2 huge injuries in Drew Brees and Big Ben Roethlisberger, and another menial, I want to say, injury to Trevor Siemian. I mean, he's out for the year, but that means the Jets are now on their third string quarterback, at least for the foreseeable future. What do injuries to Drew Brees mean to the rest of the New Orleans Saints, Paki?
I don't know, honestly. I don't know, to be honest. And this is an interesting one because Teddy Bridgewater is a solid backup. He came in, he didn't do much, but we know Teddy Bridgewater has the capabilities to be a starting quarterback in this league. New Orleans is a run-first offense. They're using Drew Brees more as a specialist than as a passer nowadays. They don't even throw 30 times like they did before. I think where Drew Brees really did make a difference is on his clutch, right? So let's see how that happens with Teddy Bridgewater if he's able to do that clutch, the clutch gene like Drew Brees did. But like I said, it could all stay the same. It could be a little different if they could still run the same offense, passing 15 to 25 times a game and just handing it off to Kamara and Latavius Murray. I don't think we should expect much difference. It's not like Drew Brees is bombing it like Patrick Mahomes, anyways.
All right, so you're saying that if you own Alvin Kamara, you'll be safe. If you own Latavius Murray, you'll be okay. But what does that do for owners of Michael Thomas, Ted Ginn,
like I said,
other players in the passing game?
Like I said, it's hard to tell at this moment because Drew Brees, those players were making plays with the balls in their hands. It's not like Drew Brees was gunning the ball up and down the field, putting those guys in situations to win. Of course, he was putting them in situations to win. I mean, in situations to, like, score points. They were making their own stats, right? Ted Ginn is the only one that I don't really care about. He's a one-trick pony. He's there for the deep shot. He'll have some high games. He'll have some low games, regardless of who's at quarterback. He'll get those bombs every once in a while. Michael Thomas is the guy to look at. I'm guessing that Teddy Bridgewater is going to rely on him more than anybody in the passing game, as do most inexperienced quarterbacks do. So, rely on their number one receiver. So I think they'll be fine. Honestly.
I saw that game, and I know that I expect the game plan to change. Mm-hmm. But at least what I saw in that game with Teddy Bridgewater basically coming in cold, he threw a lot to Michael Thomas, but he threw him into pits. And what I mean by that is he threw him in places where he couldn't do anything. I mean,
Yeah,
other than catch the ball, if he threw a 5 yard pass, they gained exactly 5 yards. He threw it to a guarded Michael Thomas, who knows no better than to catch the ball, but he was immediately tackled. He
yeah,
really wasn't doing much. He has to find ways to throw these players open.
yeah. Let's give it some time. I mean, remember they Teddy Bridgewater got 0 reps with the first team. That's always been Drew Brees' team. So we got to give it some time, see if if they get some chemistry going. So, like I said, fantasy wise, I don't think it's going to be much of a difference for the fantasy players around him. Win wise for New Orleans, I think it will because I think Drew Brees, that's where he's special, man, and that clutch 2 minute drive, probably one of the best quarterbacks ever running a 2 minute offense. So. Anything could happen at this point. It could stay the same. It could go worse. Right now, it's hard for me to tell, but I'll go with they'll stay pretty much the same. I don't think their value dips that much to be significant.
All right, let's keep moving on. Let's not take too much time. I want to talk about some of the other injuries, but let's not dedicate as much time as we did to the first one.
Well,
Uh,
that was the biggest one, so you're fine.
Big Ben Roethlisberger, I think that's a huge one.
Yeah,
Um, the Steelers, just in general, they have who a lot of people that drafted consider to be high impact fantasy players. You were expecting very high output out of James Conner and Juju Smith Schuster, and you haven't got that. So, how does the exit of Big Ben, who's not coming back at all this year, and by the way, after Nick Foles got injured, they traded their second string quarterback. So now their third string becomes their first string, Mason Rudolph. What do you see happening there?
yeah,
Can I count on James Conner? Should I look to trade him? Same for Juju Smith-Schuster, who hasn't looked impressive anyway. And what does that mean for a player like Vance McDonald?
right. The first thing, I mean, let's talk about real football for a second. Not only did they trade away their backup quarterback, they just after Big Ben got hurt, they trade away their future first round pick for next year for a cornerback, which doesn't make any sense. You think you start getting ready for for life after Big Ben with your pick next year, which might be a top 15 pick. The way the Steelers are going without Big Ben, but if you think about it, Big Ben wasn't doing shit anyways in the first 2 games. He was playing horrible. So Mason Rudolph can't be worse than that. He wasn't helping out James Conner. He wasn't helping out Juju Smith. He was playing extremely bad. So I don't think Mason Rudolph can be that much worse. Where I am concerned is, though, that there will be more stacked boxes. That's what they normally do with these young quarterbacks like Mason Rudolph. So that's going to be a little tougher for James Conner. And with Juju Smith, well, it depends how good Mason Rudolph is. He looked good when he came in for Big Ben, but when teams start preparing for him with game film, we'll see how that changes. So at this point, based on the first 2 games, I don't think Connor or Juju Smith are going to do worse than what they've done since Big Ben was playing like garbage anyway. So um, I think this is what we should expect over the season. But yes, their value does drop immediately. How much? We'll see.
That is not a positive outlook. They didn't
Yeah,
start that good to begin with.
yeah,
Granted, they played against a stacked defense in New England and then Seattle, but they haven't looked impressive the first 2 games.
at all, none at all. And it's all Big Ben. It's all Big Ben. He was playing like garbage.
All right. Well, Nick Foles got injured week 1. Gardner Minshew stepped up in week 2. I thought that it was worth mentioning Gardner Minshew. He didn't look bad.
Yeah, he
He
didn't.
he looks like an extremely accurate quarterback. He's getting a lot of completions, not a ton of yards, but a lot of completions.
Hmm.
They're not necessarily amounting to a whole bunch of points. But what does that mean for the pass catchers and the running backs in Jacksonville?
The way that they're running the offense right now, I'd say it's good for PPR. But you notice, I don't know if you noticed, they're not throwing the ball down the field that much. And when they do, that's when Gardner Minshew doesn't look as good. Gardner Minshew, he sounds like a salad. So that's where their concern is. Because when you're talking about a team like Jacksonville, who has historically struggled to score, it concerns me. You saw in the last game, they were struggling to get touchdowns, right? Because they can't get the ball down the field. So these guys, PPR, they should get some catches, you know what I mean? But their touchdown numbers are going to go way down now, bro. Like, it's just, they can't get the ball down the field. They're not going to be playing around a lot in the red zone. And Leonard Fournette makes his money in the red zone. So, there's going to be less touchdowns for everybody there. But, I mean, DJ Shark has looked pretty good, if anything, from that receiving corps. So we'll see how he keeps developing, man. But I just don't see many touchdowns in this offense.
DJ Shark. Da, 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 da. I
Easy
have a
one.
list here of bad teams. The Dolphins, the Cardinals, the Giants, the Lions, the 49ers, the Bucks. the Titans, the Jags, and the Bengals. And then there's a team that had the potential to be good in the New York Jets, but after losing
Injuries.
Sam Darnold, possibly for a long stretch, now also losing Trevor Simeon for the rest of the year, they're also on their third quarterback, and they're facing probably the most brutal schedule in the next 6 weeks. Uh, Probably, I'm only comparing them to the Browns because Jesus, the Jets are going to have an uphill battle with their third stringer. They're probably going to lose every game from here on out.
Yeah, man, and not to mention that the offensive line isn't that great. I mean, poor Le'Veon Bell, man. He's just not able to be as patient as he was in Pittsburgh with this offensive line. I mean, he still got some plays.
He's trying. He's
Yeah, he's
trying to be
trying. No,
patient.
I mean, he's talented. He's making some
He's
plays, but breaking a big one is tough.
he's not like bursting through holes like most running backs do, where they just
Yeah.
step on the accelerator full drive. He's still the guy who does that little hesitation step, finds that hole, wait for the opening, and goes. And it's good for 6, 7 yards here and there, but um, there came a point when the new what's his name, Falk is the new quarterback now for the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
He came in, he handed off to Le'Veon Bell. It worked once, it worked twice. When you go to the well the third time, I mean, they're expecting it. After that, he just started getting shut down. You got to vary that up.
Yeah, you got to add to that the Jets also lost C.J. Mosley, although it's not for a long time. He's still hurt with a groin injury. They have Williams out, so the middle of the defense is kind of vulnerable. As you can see, teams can run the ball on them now. So not only are they going to get 3 and outs, but they're not going to be on the field for long. So there's not going to be a lot of time of possession for the Jets' offense. So that also affects that offensive team if you think about it that way. So I still didn't have any expectations for any Jets player on that offense besides maybe Darnold and Le'Veon Bell. Now, a lot, much less. So,
I mentioned those bad teams for a number of reasons. First of all, watching football this last week was aesthetically unpleasing. It was so bad. The last 2 weeks, honestly, I've seen so many blowouts. It's just been a really tough watch. Maybe once in a while we'll get a good game, and then when you do get a good game, like for example Rams and Saints, then you get injuries, and then it all just goes to shit.
who do you think is going to win when the Jets play the Dolphins? I mean, they do play each other twice a week, twice a year.
Well, you know what? It is possible to draw. I mean, two of the teams that I have as part of this top 10 of awful teams are the Cardinals and the Lions, and they already drew. So they could tie 6-6.
And it's funny that you mentioned the blowouts. I've never seen spreads like I'm seeing this year. Last week, we had New England giving 19 points to Miami, and now they upped the ante in Vegas. The Cowboys are giving Miami 21.5, and the Patriots are giving the Jets 23 points. Like, these are college spreads, bro. I've never seen that before, so that adds to the point that you made.
And why the fuck am I watching this? It's so boring. And then at the same time,
Well, don't
if
watch those games.
some of those are unavoidable. I mean, the Jets are going to be on TV. The Giants are going to be on TV. That
I
being
mean,
said,
this week, for example, Baltimore and Kansas City. Like, how would you not want to watch that game? That sounds like it's going to be a great game.
game of the week until they blow up Lamar Jackson, and then it all goes to shit.
Oh man, why are you so negative?
Then we end up watching RG3.
Texas and Chargers. That's another good game.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it is.
The Chargers played the Lions. Look how shit that came out.
Well, but still, that doesn't mean it can't be a good game.
Yeah. Don't defend it. Come on, it's awful.
Hater.
It's awful. It's just awful, awful. Yeah. So I was saying that when you're getting blown out that way, you have no choice but to pass the ball. And in the case of Cincinnati, which I'm watching really closely, having picked up Joe Mixon and backed them up with Giovanni Bernard, they're not giving him the ball to run at all. I mean, product of that might be just poor offensive line play, the fact that Joe Mixon got injured in the first week. But aside from that, Andy Dalton is leading the league in passing attempts. And from what I heard, passing yards, because he's throwing the ball all over the field. He's got Tyler Boyd and he's got John Ross who are making completions. He's throwing, but no running yards. So I went high. I picked up Joe Mixon in my second round for what? For 4 points? For 8? Oh.
Yeah, the play calling has been suspicious. I mean, if you think about it, besides probably the Ravens, the Saints, and I'm going to go on a limb and say the Patriots and the Vikings. That's 4 teams out of 32. Those are the only 4 teams that are running the ball.
Yeah,
Everybody else is going pass first. Even the Jets with the third string quarterback, they will go in and on 3 downs, go 3 straight passes. Like it's ridiculous.
they're playing catch up.
Yeah, everybody's trying to get the pass interference, man. I feel like that's what offensive coordinators are playing for now.
Ooh,
Like
good
they're
point.
playing for that pass interference.
Good point. All right, so you want to talk matchups?
Let's do it.
Week 3 of the League of Haters. We're going to start off with the Battle of the Babies. We have What It Do, Baby, at 1-1 in the 11th place versus Guys, Baby, also 1-1 in 12th place. Uh, I think
Nice.
I'm going to win, but you tell me why I'm going to win.
Well, Yahoo says you won't win, but that's what Yahoo says. We might say otherwise. Well, you got Joe Mixon versus Buffalo. Let's start off with that. You were just talking about Joe Mixon, so I'm just going to carry off on that. Buffalo has a better defense than a lot of people give him credit for. So that's a very tough matchup. You got James Conner versus San Francisco. San Francisco has been surprisingly good. They're 2-0. And I just heard recently San Francisco hasn't had a single 3-and-out all year. I mean, it's only been 2 games, but that is an interesting stat if you think about it.
It's
So
been 2 games, and it's been help me out here. It's the Bucks and Cincinnati.
still,
So
it is soft matchups, but not getting any 3-and-outs is still impressive.
they're a bad team that's played against worse teams.
Regardless, I'm saying it's impressive to not have any 3-and-outs, no matter who you play. Unless you're playing
Props
the
to them.
Dolphins, it's still impressive. So, I mean, I'm concerned with Alshon Jeffrey. You have him there as a starter. He's not going to play this week. I don't think he will. So I think this is a great chance for you to start Marvin Jones Jr. up there against the Eagles. The Eagles have a really shitty defensive backfield, so you can have some good points on that one. So your receivers are going to have to carry on this one. We don't know what can happen with James Conner. Maybe, even though they're stacking the box, they'll rely more on him, right? Since they have Mason Rudolph now, maybe he'll get the ball more, and that'll be good. But T.Y. Hilton should be solid versus, and Adam Thielen should be solid versus Oakland as well. Although the Oakland defense hasn't looked as bad as last year, they're still Oakland. It's still vulnerable, even though it's my team, I love them. And I think you can add Marvin Jones up there, and you should be good. It should look good.
So you'd go Marvin Jones over Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders looked good last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I definitely go Marvin Jones over Emmanuel Sanders. I don't know if you saw that Sunday night game, the Eagles versus the Falcons. It's just the Eagles' defensive backs are just really bad. They're just so bad. And Green Bay has a really good front seven. So I'm thinking they're going to make Joe Flacco really uncomfortable. And that might make it a little hard to get the ball downfield to Emmanuel Sanders.
Sweet. All right. Well, Yahoo has me losing, but they're also projecting 0 points for Alshon Jeffrey. So I
There you
guess when
go.
I sub someone else in, that's
You'll
going to
make,
vary somewhat.
yep.
We have Lamar Jackson going up. Sorry, for Guys, Baby, we got Lamar Jackson going up against Kansas City. In Kansas City, it's really hard to win in Kansas City, so I'm told. It's also expected to be a rainy day. Lamar Jackson has been a lot better than anticipated. He's made strides over his performances last year. That being said, this is going to be his toughest challenge.
Massive
Playing
strides.
on the road in Kansas City in bad weather. Is he going to do it with his wheels? Is he going to do it with his arm? Can he do it at all? I don't know. But so far, I think he's the number one quarterback in fantasy. He'll get his points for sure. Juju Smith-Schuster playing on the road in San Francisco with Mason Rudolph. I think those 12.95 points are generous. He has not been living up to expectations. I like Mike Evans. I think the hero or the most possessions recently have been going to Chris Goodwin, but Mike Evans is still the touchdown maker for Tampa Bay, and he's going up against the Giants. Anyone can have a great game against the Giants. Matt Breida gets a lot of yards. He gets a lot of touches. Going up against Pittsburgh, they've always been a decent, better than average defense. I don't know how exhausted they're going to be if Pittsburgh can't make it happen on offense. And on and on and on and on. Marquez Valdez Scantling, he's actually I like him for possessions. I don't like him for touchdowns when it comes to um, the just spreading the ball around for Aaron Rodgers. Shit, I'm speechless right now. I don't know. I'm having brain farts all over the place. Player to watch here is O.J. Howard against the Giants. He may score 2 touchdowns. It's possible he may be the best tight end this week. All that being said, waiver wire is coming up, and I'm definitely going to sub out that zero that I have. I hope to God that I don't have a defensive letdown like I did last week, and I'm never gonna go against me. So what the fuck? What it do, baby? Is who I'm picking.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Guy's Baby on this one.
Duh.
Yeah, I'm going opposite. I think Lamar Jackson and Kansas City should be a shootout, regardless. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. And I also like there's two players there playing the Giants, and the Giants secondary sucks, and they're both receivers, so that should be interesting as well. So I'm going to rely on Guy's Baby for this one.
All right, the 1-1, 10th place overall, Rough Raiders.
That's my team.
Oof, got a bunch of empty spots. I wonder what's going to happen after waiver wire Wednesday. All right, and he's going up against Game Pounds at Gordo, who's currently 0-2, but projecting a ton of points and in 13th place. It hasn't been the best turnout for Game Pounds at Gordos, but I'll let you talk about them. All right, so what am I looking at in terms of the Rough Raiders? So Odell Beckham Jr., you have him, you start him. DJ Moore is still the number one option at receiver for Carolina. Sony Michel, I don't like the production he's giving you so far. I mean, he kind of made it up in week 2, but it was only because of the touchdown. Strip that touchdown, and you would have been really low in points.
Yeah.
Chris Carson, I think Brad Penny was it Rashad Penny? I'm sorry, Rashad Penny. Brad Penny's a pitcher somewhere. Rashad Penny got the touchdown last week, so not totally feeling him. Hawkinson's still working his way into the offense. Christian Kirk, he is what he is in Arizona. You don't have a kicker, but that's okay. Just pick up anyone, plug and play. Doesn't really matter. Who the fuck is going to be your starting quarterback? I mean, the world may never know at this point, huh?
Yeah, it's tough, man. I'm going. I dumped 4 players, and I'm going to figure it out with the waiver wire. So it's got to be either Jimmy Garoppolo or Case Keenum. I mean, there's not much option out there. Maybe Matthew Stafford.
I hate all of these options. Maybe Matthew Stafford gets you some yards if they just fucking unleash him finally. That being said, I'm not going to go with you this week, Pack. I'm sorry. I'm going to go with Gabe Pounds. He seems to just have it more together than you do.
Yeah, I'm making some changes on my team after a good win. But I understand. I mean, I have a lot of holes, which we'll know after waiver wire. So how it goes.
You have a lot of holes.
But Game Pounds at Golden, man, he's 0-2. I mean, the first thing is, I mean, I know the quarterback.
He's going to avenge the loss of his cousin this week.
Yeah, I know the quarterback situation in our league is kind of tough because I don't know why this fucking league values quarterbacks so goddamn much.
I'll tell you why.
It's fucking ridiculous.
You want to know why? I'll tell you why. Because quarterbacks win you regular season games.
Yeah, but why are people carrying so many fucking quarterbacks and not even starting? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, this league.
So that you don't have them.
Yeah, it's a stupid way to go about it, but that's fine. I mean, if it works, it works. My boy Adley here is stuck with Gardner Minshew, so whatever I pick up, I should be better than that. So I'm not very concerned unless he's also challenging for a quarterback up there. John Brown has been impressive against Buffalo with Buffalo, so he got Cincinnati. That should be good. And Stephon Diggs versus Oakland. Oakland always gives up a big play every single game. Stephon Diggs is a big play machine, so I wouldn't be surprised if Stephon Diggs gets a bombs here and there. Austin Eckler, man, has been impressive with the Chargers. He's been steadily producing there. Nick Chubb, you already saw what he did yesterday to the Jets. Diced him, man, with some nice runs. Love it. Love Nick Chubb. So, yeah, man, this team looks really good. I like the Mustard pick over there, or Mustard, however you say it. Mustard. San Francisco running back. Solid pick while Tevin Coleman comes back. I mean, he's gonna be good in PPR. So I do like game pounds, I do like this team. They have some solid players at wide receiver and running back. Tight end, not convinced. Quarterback, not convinced. But that can change. I'm still going to pick me because I'm not going to bet against me. And I'm pretty solid. I'm pretty sure I'm going to make some good pickups through the waiver wire or the free agency. So I am going to pick me. But game pounds are going to definitely proves to have a good team.
When you have one flex position, you're hoping to get double-digit numbers. This Mostert guy, he might have caught the other team, Cincinnati, by the way, off guard, but he's playing a better defense. I'm not sure that he has the same performance that he had, but you know who's had a good performance for 2 weeks in a row and has produced at least 10 points is James White. And this week he's
Yeah.
going up against the Jets. Ali, you might want to reconsider your flex spot. I mean, if
He
you're
will
going
keep.
for the home,
He
if
will
you're going
keep
for the
doing it.
home run, you go with Mostert, but you want to get those for sure 10 points, I would take James White.
I agree 100% on that. I definitely agree with that. James White is a PPR machine. He don't need touchdowns.
All right. In our third matchup, we have the 1-1 Mac Cafe Express O, currently in 7th place, going up against fucking 4 p.m. Daft. I would hope that at some point he would change that, but no. He's also 1-1 and in 5th place. All right, so tell me about Mac Cafe Espresso. How does he
So
bounce back from a really mediocre performance last week?
I don't think he will. So here's the funny thing. Remember that you
Okay.
said that he went all the way from the top with 177 points down to the bottom. We mentioned this when we were doing the team reviews. He has 3 Chargers. So his 3 Chargers, at least 2 of the 3 of them killed it week 1. All 3 of them were mediocre week 2. So this team is dependent 100% on the production of those 3 Chargers. Mike Williams is banged up, and Phillip Rivers and Keenan Allen are playing Houston. So Houston, I think, has a solid defense. I'm expecting J.J. Watt to make it impossible for Phillip Rivers. So I'm not expecting any of these guys to have a big week. Maybe one of the 3, but that won't be enough uh, for this team to pop it open again like they did in week 1. Christian McCaffrey's
Pop
a
it open.
yeah,
That's
the
a lot.
scoreboard. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey, bro. This guy, I don't care if it's Cam Newton in the backfield. I don't care if it's fucking Mr. Bean. Who cares? Playing quarterback for the Panthers. But Christian McCaffrey is insanely good. Probably the best fantasy running back right now. Maybe one of the most complete running backs. After having an off game last week, I expect him to bounce back versus Arizona. So he's going to be solid. And Mark Ingram should have at least a touchdown in the red zone versus Kansas City.
I want more thoughts on Mark Ingram. I'm going to be watching him especially because I let him go in a trade, and it came back to bite me in the ass week 1, not so much in week 2. So first week, he gets 14 carries, 107 yards, 2 touchdowns. It nets him 22.7 points.
Mm-hmm.
Week 2, just one less attempt, 13 attempts or 13 carries, only 47 yards, no touchdowns. That equals 8.7 points. Which one of these is a more realistic outlook going forward for Mark Ingram?
I think the carries will stay consistent around that number, and I would say something in between both because first week was versus Miami, right? So he had 2 touchdowns, so that makes it that inflates it. He's not going to have 2 touchdowns every week.
I mean, week 2 was against Arizona. They're not that much better.
Yeah, but like I said, there's a balance in between. You can have a good game and a bad game, but Miami's still like a million times worse than Arizona at this point. So I definitely think it's somewhere in between. I'd say like his average would be around 13 to 15 carries, 60 to 75 yards, and I'm gonna say half a touchdown because I don't think he's gonna get a touchdown every week. So it just depends. I think versus Kansas City, they will be in the red zone, and that's where he gets his touchdowns. He is not gonna break. I mean, he can obviously. It's the NFL, but I doubt he is not the type of guy that's gonna break out a big one. He's there for the end zone, for when they're inside the 5-yard line.
All right, so for fucking 4 p.m. Daft, it looks like he's going to go with Tom Brady over Cam Newton, and I don't blame him. Even though Cam Newton has a juicier matchup, I mean, any Tom Brady matchup is a juicy matchup. So you're fine there. I can't advise you to do otherwise. And also, Cam Newton is in danger of even playing this week. So hold steady with Tom Brady. Tyler Boyd, it's the best of the options that you have, quite honestly. I'm surprised that fucking 4 p.m. Daft even set his lineup this early. Maybe it's just a leftover from last week. Cooper Cup. Cooper Cup is amazing. Cooper
Mm,
Cup. I'll give you credit, man,
I
for
told you.
shouting him out. Cooper Cup made the best catch that not well, he made the best catch in that game at least when he played against New Orleans. Just slicing up the defense. Unfortunately, his knee just grazed the floor right before the touchdown, but amazing catch and run by Cooper Cup, and he can just break a play open with the simplest of catches. Great player in Cooper Cup.
Yeah, I love that guy, man.
Saquon Barkley against Tampa Bay. The Tampa Bay defense doesn't scare you.
Nope.
Um, so you really have no choice. You have Saquon Barkley. You're going to start him for as long as he's available. He might get in the end zone this week. He had 18 carries against Buffalo. It didn't even seem that way. Only 107 yards. He had 120 the week before. With that being said, though, he should be able to shred Tampa Bay at Tampa Bay. This is actually a game that the Giants have a chance of winning. I'm not getting my hopes up, but if you have Saquon, you start him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Um, Damian Williams, I haven't heard much from him yet. It's been all Patrick Mahomes in my opinion. Yeah, he got in the end zone week one, but it looks like he's clearly sharing the backfield with Shady McCoy.
Hmm?
Um, it's not the type of look at this. 9 rushing attempts, only 8 yards rushing. That's pitiful.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really
I
bad.
think I think LaShawn McCoy is going to be the starting running back of this team as time progresses. He will get more and more carries.
I think so too. When it was time to draft and you drafted Damian Williams, you had the idea that Andy Reid knows how to get his running backs in spaces, and if he was the bell cow of that offense, then you had something there. You had a diamond in the rough. But as it stands, Damian Williams is a flop. I would actually put him on your bench. I don't know yet who I would start from there, but Marlon Mack should probably be your running back too, and find a different player for your flex, especially considering that the waiver wire is coming up. Um, I'm not going to talk about every single player on this team, but safe to say that with what I've seen so far, with what I've talked about, I would still pick 4 p.m. Daft to win this game.
Yeah, I went with 4 p.m. Daft as well. The thing with Damon Williams is although he's not the number one back and although he's hasn't done great, I mean it's Kansas City, man. It could just be that one game, you know what I mean, where he just breaks it open. So that is makes me kind of
Well, this isn't an
self-conscious.
encouraging week either. I mean, he's going up against Baltimore, and
Yeah.
Baltimore is an all-time defense no matter what year they're in. Harbaugh is an awesome coach. Defense, offense, he just makes it happen. It's rare when that team is bad at anything in general. All
Yeah.
right, next matchup, the 1-1, ninth overall, Cuz El Abusador, going up against 1-1 as well, but third overall, carrying over from the best score last week. No voy a pagar nada. All right, tell me why Cuz El Abusador is going to win this week.
Yeah, straight off the bat, I think I'm going to go with him for this week. Even though Noah Pagana has an excellent team, I think I'm going to go with Cousin Juan on this one, and I'll tell you why. I think Zeke Elliott versus Miami should have at least 30 fantasy points. Let's start off with that one. Antonio Brown versus the Jets should have well over 20. Clearly, the Patriots are looking for him, especially in the end zone, and they will get in the end zone plenty versus the New York Jets, especially with the issues they have on defense. Um, Add to that, Johnson has looked pretty good, man. And again, the Eagles' defense, I don't know, man. Um, without Malik Jackson in their line, it's just it's all on Fletcher Cox. I just think Kerryon Johnson could also burst out some good plays, and I love that he picked up Adrian Peterson. That he got that on the waiver wire. The only thing I don't like about Adrian Peterson is that he's playing Chicago this week, so I'm not expecting anything at all from Adrian Peterson. But with just such heavy guys in Kerryon Johnson, Zeke Elliott, Antonio Brown, and of course you got Batman Rogers versus Denver. FYI, Denver's defense is not as good as it was 3 years ago. They're just playing with the name that they got. Um, none of those starters. There's maybe two starters left from the Super Bowl days. So, yeah, man, I really like Cuzalo Salud this week. He has a lot of good players with a lot of good matchups.
So actually, what you're telling me is that you're looking for Rodgers to get back on track. He's been average at quarterback this year, at least for fantasy's sake.
Yeah.
12.92 points week one, 13.36 in week two. These aren't the kind of numbers that you draft Aaron Rodgers for.
Yeah, but he played Chicago and Minnesota.
All right. Well, let's see. He's going to be
Should
playing at home against Denver.
should
It
be
looks
better
to
with
me
them.
like that team is relying a lot more on their defense and on their running than so much on their passing.
I mean, he's still
And
throwing it 30 times a game, but it's just he was going against really tough matchups. I think these Denver's going to taste like carrot cake for this guy right now after playing against Chicago and Minnesota.
is that a saying? Do people say that?
I mean, carrot cake is my favorite cake, and it tastes really good. So,
Oh, hell no.
so that's why I said it.
Red velvet.
I'm a carrot cake guy, man. Fuck it.
No. Unofficial commentators poll. Put it in the comment section. Which is a better cake? Is it red velvet or is it carrot cake?
It's definitely carrot cake. So in your world, it would be this defense is going to taste like red velvet.
Nice. All right, Baker Mayfield going up against the Rams, and he's going to have Aaron Donald coming up his neck all game long. It doesn't seem like Cleveland can rely on that offensive line to keep Baker Mayfield safe, and Aaron Donald is offensive line proof. So it's going to be a dip for sure for young Baker Mayfield. Julio Jones against Indianapolis. Indianapolis' defense is good. They're playing on the road. Luckily for Matt Ryan, it's also in a dome. So look for Julio Jones to get his points. Chris Godwin against the Giants. Look, he's going to blow up. We got Dalvin Cook against Oakland. He's
Yep.
going to blow up.
Yup. Oh God, I don't know how the Raiders are going to win this game.
Derrick Henry against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who seem to be falling apart. Like they're just holding on by a string. Now we got the players fighting the coach, going for two. Ugh,
Ramsey
what?
wants out.
What awful. Yeah, after he shoves his coach, of course he wants out. Derrick Henry, look for him to do big things. He's going to bust another one open and get into the end zone. That's my prediction. Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews,
He's been solid, man.
fuck yeah, he's been solid. 2 weeks of 20 fantasy points. He's been
You know
solid.
what's funny? You know what's funny? I'm sure that Chef didn't even know who this guy was, and that's why he thought his team sucked. Like he didn't know Chris Godwin, he didn't know Mark Andrews. You know what I mean? He didn't know any of these guys. He thought his team sucked, and it really didn't.
The only player that I'm really not feeling here is AJ Brown. That could be corrected in a waiver wire pickup. Um, just not even because of AJ Brown. He seems to have some sort of talent. He was good week one. I just don't like the team around him or the team he's facing. So if you go with him, I don't think it'll matter. That will be counterbalanced somewhere over on Cause El Abusador side, probably with you saying that Adrian Peterson is not going to be all that great, or maybe Vance McDonald doesn't get the play that he deserves. That being said, I'm going to go with Noah Pagana this week.
Nice. We disagree on this one. I'm gonna go with Cuz. I went with Cuz.
All right. 1-1, El Papa de Daphne, 8th place versus on 12th and BS at 2-0 and currently in second place in the league. Wow. All right. You didn't want to talk about El Papa de Daphne, even though this would have been the week for you to talk about him, given what you did to him last week. But hey, if you don't want those honors, I'll gladly take them. So,
I mean, I leave Daryl to talk about trash. You know, Daryl, that's his thing. That's his business. So I just focus on talking about actual people that manage fantasy teams appropriately.
right. All right. Well, Matt Ryan, like I said, as long as he has Julio Jones, he'll be all right. Julio Jones can take a screen pass and turn it into a 60, 70-yard gain. So you're going to be good. Allen Robinson, I don't like him. This may be one of the easier matchups against Washington this week, even though I don't trust Mitch Trubisky. Is not see that's the thing. It's not that I don't like Allen Robinson. It's when you graded the receivers on this team, you gave him probably one of the higher grades, and I told you, remember, it's Mitch Trubisky. Throw him in the ball. if he even throws it, because he hasn't proven to me that he can throw the ball. It's been ridiculous. Josh
Yeah.
Norman,
His throwing motion is as bad as Vasquez is at managing fantasy teams.
ooh,
That's how bad it is.
he's going to be probably played against with Josh Norman, who used to be a very capable quarterback. I don't know what's going on with him. He's looking slow, sluggish. Maybe he's hiding an injury just to stay on the field. I don't know. I like John Ross a
So,
lot.
sounds like Vasquez teams.
Like I told you before, Andy Dalton is often playing from behind, throwing the ball like a madman, and John Ross is just really fucking fast. I like John Ross against Buffalo. Alvin Kamara, oh man, I, we don't know what this offense is going to look like yet. It looked really bad against the Rams last week. Seattle, they could put pressure on them. Seattle still, they have a decent defensive line. They still got Bobby Wagner. Now they got Jadeveon Clowney. They could bottle up Alvin Kamara, and it could go really bad, or it could go really positively. But regardless, he's not looking like Alvin Kamara of last year. Alvin Kamara last year was scoring upwards of 30 points per game before Ingram had come back,
Exactly.
and that's not what he's doing. He looked decent in a really close game on Monday night um, in Houston, or against Houston rather. Not so much on the road with LA. I don't know what to think about it just yet. I'm not totally convinced. Devontae Freeman, he has the starting role in Atlanta, but Ito Smith is surprisingly creeping up on him in terms of touches and carries and just yards. So I never liked Freeman to begin with. Not as a person, not a, this is not a personal shot at him. I don't like the way they use him. Zach Ertz, Zach Ertz is probably going to feed this week, but he's also going to see a ton of defense. No Deshaun Jackson this week, possibly no Alshon Jeffrey. Nelson Aguilar can't catch over the shoulder tosses, so I'm expecting a heavy workload for Zach Ertz, but I'm also expecting the focus of the defense to be on him. It's going to be a tough week, honestly, for by the Daphne.
Yeah, I'm picking on 12th and BS. I mean, obviously, this should be the Kansas City's on 12th and BS. I mean, no team here has more players from the Chiefs. You got Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelsey, Sammy Watkins. I mean, just start them all. We know you're going to start Sammy Watkins. I love the pickup of Hollywood Brown. That's a waiver wire that I try to get, missed out on. Hollywood Brown is fucking amazing. I would start him right off the bat at wide receiver as well. And then I would start on my flex with this lineup that Gary has. I would start another wide receiver, which would probably be either Larry Fitzgerald or Robert Woods, either one of them two. So I'm probably going to be Robert Woods versus Cleveland. It's definitely not going to be a running back. That's the only weakness on this team. But I'm assuming he's going to go with both of Houston backs, Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson, since this kind of like what would make sense. One of them should produce something. One of them might get a touchdown. I'm a fan of playing both running backs of the same team when it's a committee. So that's how I see it. I think.
Hell no.
What do you mean?
I would never do that.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. If I have two running backs that are in a committee, it worked. Like last in another fantasy, I have Sonny Mitchell and James White. I started both of them. They both gave me over 10 points. So you're just assuring yourself that one of your guys is going to do something. It's very rare that both running backs suck in a running back by committee unless it's in a bad team and they're playing a good team. But that's beyond the point. That's the only way I think Gary can play it right now. I would not start Philip Lindsay, so that's how I would play it if I were him. And yeah, man, I think even though Baltimore is a hell of a defense, I just think the Kansas City Chiefs is a better offense than any defense in the NFL right now. So they should be able to put up points regardless of who they face. So I'm gonna go with on 12 and BS. Besides the fact that I'm never gonna vote for Vasquez ever, so that's beyond the point.
Yeah, it is a tough week for Baba the Daphne. I'm also going with on 12 and BS.
Nice.
All right, so Guica Translate currently 2-0 and in first place in the league, another auto drafted team against a fully drafted team. Life ain't breezy at 0 and
A
2.
fully
The
drafted
worst
team that
team.
got the highest draft grade.
Psych. All right, well, this isn't going to look good for Life ain't breezy, but I'll let you discuss that one. So Why is El Papa de Guica, Guica Translate going to win this week? Well, Deshaun Watson is amazing. Don't let last game fool you. Wasn't the best matchup for him, but he should be slinging it against the Chargers. DeAndre Hopkins, after a bad week, look for him to rebound. You don't go from 28 to 6 points in fantasy and stay that low. Not when you're DeAndre Hopkins. He's going to get a ton of run. Mari Cooper has been solid this year. I like him. Tariq Cohen has been kind of on a roller coaster up and down, but it looks like of he found more of a role in the offense. That didn't amount to much, honestly. They made him a running back this week versus a receiver the week prior. He got 4 attempts. That only netted him 3.5 fantasy points. Don't like your running backs. I don't like Rashad Penny. He's dependent on touchdowns, and it just so happened to work out for you last week against me. But I don't see that happening every week. George Kittle is a beast. You got him. You start him. Calvin Ridley getting a ton of possessions in Atlanta. Maybe too much of the focus goes over to Julio Jones, and you end up scoring a bunch of points. Um, there's not much that I would suggest for you to do in terms of changing with what you have on the bench. Bench looks pretty slim. Devin Funches on IR. He's probably getting dropped at some point. Hunter Renfro, he hasn't amounted to shit. I mean, he looked good in Hard Knocks, but that was about it.
Yeah.
And you're still carrying 2 kickers. Why on earth are you doing that? I will never fucking know.
Oh man, yeah, Hunter Renfro, man. I mean,
Yeah,
picking
talk
it
about
up.
your team.
He's picking it up. All right, so life ain't breezy, man. He's 0-2. He got an A+ in the draft. Best team in the draft. He was gloating about it. I'm sorry, bro. I don't think you're gonna win, and it's amazing how quick a team is starting to look like not that good as the season develops.
A lot of these things are situational, though. There's an injury to Drew Brees. He's
Yeah,
going to be
yeah, of
out for a
course.
while.
That's
There
what I'm
was an
saying.
injury the week prior to Hunter Henry. He's going to be out for a
Right.
while. Sterling Shepard, who I guess you were going to rely on heavily as one of your top receivers, he's out with a concussion. He may not make it back this week. Mohamed Sanu is hot trash. And then you fill in the blanks. What's left?
No, and just like that, just like you're going, you got Leonard Fournette that he's stuck with Gardner Minshew. So he's also, like I said, he's not going to be scoring many touchdowns. Todd Gurley's obviously on a pitch count. It's been more than obvious. Jarvis Landry has kind of like gotten forgotten in Cleveland. All the touches are going over to Odell Beckham. He hasn't even gotten to 5 receptions yet. So, I mean, the only solid players right now is Devontae Adams and Jason Witten. I mean, I don't even know. I don't think I would start him in fantasy. I just don't think he's fantasy startable yet. But I mean, you did lose Hunter
Listen,
Henry.
Devontae Adams had no business being in the top 7 or the number 1 receiver overall. If you picked him thinking he was going to be a game changer, boy, were you wrong. I mean, there's still a lot of time. It's only week 2. Maybe I get proved wrong later on. But he has looked awful. Aaron Rodgers, well, you already told me he's playing against really good defenses, but I am not sold that this dude merited to be in the top 10 in fantasy drafting.
Yeah, I disagree with you on that one. I mean, he was one of the top receivers, if not the top receiver, if I'm not mistaken, in fantasy like the last 7 weeks or something like that. The guy's a monster. It's just has been tough matchups. The only downside is that he's in a very tough division. He will play the Bears and the Vikings again at some point this season, so that is tough.
This guy's upside is Greg Jennings. I mean,
Nah, you're way more than Greg. Way
no,
more
no,
than
no,
Greg
no.
Jennings. Disagree.
I that this is what I believe. His upside is Greg Jennings. If Aaron Rodgers is not putting him in the end zone, he's not making anything happen. He's not like the really good receivers that can do it with any quarterback. This guy is a product of his quarterback. His quarterback's not playing great, and therefore you get what you get with Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I
Not feeling it.
disagree completely, but beyond the point, Sterling Shepard. Only a Giant fan believes Sterling Shepard is a number one wide receiver. Just because you're number one in the depth chart doesn't mean you're a number one wide receiver. Sterling Shepard will never
Shout out to
amount.
Juju Smith-Schuster.
Sterling Shepard will never amount to anything fantasy wise. He's just not a playmaker. He might have one good game in the whole year or whatever, but this guy
Oh, slow down there.
he's just an
I don't know if
average
he makes it
guy.
back this week, but he was one of Eli's favorite targets, especially in the end zone.
Right. And what
And
did he do?
and he scored a bunch of touchdowns. I mean, I'm not looking at the sheet right now, and I don't want to stop the podcast to go look it up. But I'm pretty sure he had close to
bro.
10, if not 10 touchdowns one year.
Bro, I'm gonna look it up right now because I'm telling you, like, it's not just that. Like, you can tell when a player plays. He doesn't have the breakaway speed. He doesn't have super awesome hands. He's not a super crisp route runner. Last year he had 4 touchdowns and 800 yards. So,
How about the
I
year before?
2 touchdowns and 700 yards.
Damn, I'm misremembering this activity.
The year
Yeah, but
before
no, no.
his rookie year, he did get 8 touchdowns. His rookie.
Okay, so that's the one I'm remembering because the one after that was the one that I was injured for most of the year.
That shit was 3 seasons ago, and he hasn't looked anywhere near. Not that he looked great, but that was just a different type of offense back then. But it doesn't matter. All I'm saying is that this guy is just not a number one receiver. He's a great second receiver, right? If they had a number one, but he's getting the top corners in the league, and he just can't get open from these top corners. So I'm really sorry, Giant fans. I'm really sorry. It's nothing against the team. It's just this guy. He's the number one depth chart, but he's not. He's going to get targets. He's just not going to get a lot of stuff done in fantasy. So I'm really sorry. I'm not feeling this team right now.
But don't panic. Don't panic. Week 3, different quarterback. After week 4, Golden Tate comes back, and then he goes back to his usual position. I think he's still worth holding on to.
Yeah, maybe things will look different once Golden Tate comes back. That might be a little different, but still, you're looking at a receiver with less um, targets, right? Even though he might have a better matchup with weaker corners. So for the draft, for the value in the draft, when we drafted, I just don't think it was there with him. I don't know. Never.
Well, I think Life Ain't Breezy is just too hurt, and whoever he replaces Drew Brees with, I don't think he's going to replace Drew Brees for the remainder of the year, even though, think about it, if he's going to be out somewhere around 6 weeks as of right now, and this is already week 2, and we only play 13 weeks in fantasy, he's going to come back for something like, what, week 9, 10 maybe? So is it worth using that roster spot with a player that nobody can use?
You just made a good point. If this was your only injury, I would hold on to him. But when you're going through so many injuries, it's really tough to hold on to that. But it's up to you at the end of the day.
Well, you got Hunter Henry still on your bench with a broken leg, and now you have 6 weeks guaranteed for sure out for Drew Brees. I would drop him.
Yeah, it's tough. All right, man.
All right.
Last matchup.
Moving on. 1-1. The Gotham City Rogues currently in 6th place, going up against my alternate team, Run Rooks Run, currently in 4th place with a 1-1 as well. Am I winning this week, Paki? By the way, this should be matchup of the week. I mean, these are usually up there amongst the most winningest teams, and probably with the higher projections.
Yeah, no, man, I'm sorry. I don't think your alternate team is gonna win this week.
What?
I'm very sorry. I mean, I like Kyler Murray, versus Carolina. It should be interesting, but Kyler Murray I don't know. He's a rookie, so.
You know good and damn well he is not starting no fucking Kyler Murray. Dak Prescott is on the bench and he plays against Miami. He's doing that smoke and mirror shit. Dak Prescott is the one who's going to start.
Yeah, if you start Dak Prescott, maybe it's a little different. But
maybe that's 30 points against Miami.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Carry on.
Yeah, man. I think you know what? You're right. I think I'm gonna go with Run Rooks Run on this one because you got Michael Thomas, you got Julian Edelman as well versus the Jets, you got Josh Gordon versus the Jets. So he has 3 players going up against the Jets in Miami. So that's a pretty interesting matchup. I don't know if I would start. I mean, I would. I wouldn't start Le'Veon Bell. Would I?
In favor of what?
Yeah, I would start Le'Veon Bell over Madison. That's it.
Of course you would.
Yeah, I would start Le'Veon Bell. So you'd have Miles Sanders, Le'Veon Bell, and Josh Jacobs. That's interesting, though. But I don't expect much from Josh Jacobs this week. Plus, he's kind of hurt. Miles Sanders has been underperforming for the Eagles, so that's a interesting one. And DK Metcalf, man, he's getting some stuff done, man. He's getting some touchdown looks, getting some targets. Maybe he'll do something. But this is going to be
DK Metcalf is not going to make the starting lineup either.
This is just such a close. I mean, you could start him at flex maybe because you would start Edelman and Gordon. Nah, you'd start Edel. Yeah, he wouldn't make the starting lineup either. This is such a tough matchup though, because Gotham City Rogues has such a good team, such a good. It's gonna be so equal. Honestly, I
Get
don't know,
off his dick.
but I'm gonna go with Run Rooks Run. I mean, you're right. I mean that there's just so many good matchups. Run Rooks Run.
Carson Wentz looking to bounce back. He didn't look great for the entire first half of Sunday Night Football, but he's going up against the Lions, and everybody scores on the Lions. They make everyone look great. He threw for about 100 less yards and threw two interceptions, where in the previous week he didn't throw any at all. Look for Carson Wentz to bounce back. Brandon Cooks getting in the end zone against Cleveland, that's a guarantee. Kenny Galladay, what do they call him? Minitron?
Yeah,
He's not quite Megatron, but the next best thing. You've already mentioned the woes of Philadelphia in
their defensive
the
back is not that
yeah.
great.
David
Yeah,
Johnson should be fully recovered from whatever wrist injury had him kind of knocked out. Aaron Jones against Denver. I think Denver is still good for stopping runs every once in a while. There's a gap at tight end. Probably fill it with Eric Ebron, who's good for a touchdown every here and there. You have a stout bench. If you decide to replace any of the guys currently in your starting lineup, I could see LaShawn McCoy making your starting lineup, even though he's a little banged up. I can see Devin Singletary making your starting lineup, um, even though it looks like Frank Gore got a good chunk of yardage against and a touchdown even against the Giants. But I think that was more a product of who they were playing against. Um, but this week they go against Cincinnati. So talk about teams that have like brutal schedules going forward, right? The Jets, the Browns, and then you got a team like Buffalo that played the Jets, the Giants, and now they're playing Cincinnati. For all we know, they might challenge New England for the division this year, with how shitty the fucking team looks, or the teams they're playing against look. And I don't want to talk about this too much. This is for sure going to be the tightest matchup. And when it's all said and done, I am going to go with
I'll
the
nominate
Gotham
this.
City Rogues.
Okay, so I want to run Rooks Run. I'll nominate this one for the matchup of the week for sure.
I already called it the matchup of the week. But
Yeah,
thanks
yeah,
for nominating it after I called it that.
yeah. I'm definitely.
That was
I thought it
quite
was
thoughtful
another
of you.
one. I thought you had called another one matchup of the week. My bad.
All right, so those are the matchups for this week. I'm not looking at the clock, but I'm pretty sure we went over an hour. So let's cut this shit short. Anything that you want the guys to pay attention to this week, Packy?
Dude, that's just Baltimore. Okay, Kansas City game should be really, really good. I mean, besides that, uh, I mean, just let's see what happens with the new quarterbacks that are coming out.
Awesome. Are
And,
you coaching any games this weekend?
yes, last weekend we lost. I
What's your
lost
team's name?
the Wildcats. I lost
Okay, go
three
Wildcats.
three offensive linemen in the first half. I had two 80-pound and 60-pound kids playing offensive line, and it was pitiful. We lost, but this week we're back at home. Hopefully we'll do better. So we're 1-1
Mm.
right now. We're playing the Swag Hawks.
Beat the crap out of the Swag Hogs. The Charcheros are going to be receiving their trophies soon. It's not yet confirmed if it'll be this weekend. It's only Tuesday, guys, so at some point maybe I'll hear it during the week. But regardless, we are champions. I think we have a couple of exhibition games coming up. Um, I don't know how much football I'll be able to watch. Fortunately, there's only one matchup that I don't want to miss, which is the Baltimore game. Outside of that, um, I think I'm going to be at a Rambo marathon this weekend. They're going to play all of the movies leading up to the new feature film. So I'll let you know how that goes.
Oh God, interesting.
From first blood to last blood. All right. Shout out to the League of Haters. Shout out again to Angel on her birthday. Shout out to Dagoberto,
A
our
producer, man.
producer.
I was about to say, don't
Uh,
forget Dago.
Yep. Follow the unofficial commentators on YouTube. Click on that little bell thing so you know when the new episodes drop. Sorry that we didn't have one for you last week, but hopefully we brought it this week and going forward. I want to start getting some of the guys in the league to participate. Come in for short little interviews and tell us some of your experience in playing with the league and such. And yep. So we are on YouTube. I mentioned we're at UC_podcast on Twitter. We're on Instagram at Unofficial Commentators. Paki has promised me that he's going to be telling you some of his waiver wire picks. Still waiting on that, but
yeah, that might be tough, dude, because I got practice on Tuesdays, and then we got normally record on Tuesdays. It's gonna be tough for me to be able to follow up with that. We'll
do
see.
it in a day. I don't know. All right. Making excuses. Okay, so that is going to be it for the Unofficial Commentators this week. I am out.
Peace.